Welcome back to the Master of Mirrors. Tonight's reflection is cracked, twisted, and terrifying. If you are ready to face the truth, dim the lights. Let's gaze into the abyss together.
Title: It started with the automatic doors, and now I can't leave my cubicle. Subreddit: r/no sleep. Posted by u/Excel sheet ghost. It wasn't a sudden thing. I didn't wake up one morning to find myself invisible. It was a slow, agonizing fade, like a dimmer switch being turned down over the course of a week. I work in data entry. It's the kind of job where you're already part of the furniture, so maybe that's why I didn't panic at first. On Monday, the automatic doors in the lobby didn't open for me. I stood there, waving my arms like an idiot, until an intern walked up behind me. The sensors caught him immediately, and the glass slid open. I slipped in behind him, muttering a joke about technology hating me. He didn't laugh. He didn't even look at me. He just put his headphones on and walked to the elevator. That was annoying, but fine. Sensors glitch. On Tuesday, I realized nobody had replied to my emails. I sent a follow-up to my manager, Dave, regarding the quarterly projections. Usually, Dave is breathing down my neck about these numbers. By 4 p.m., I walked over to his office. "Hey, Dave, did you get the file?" I asked, leaning against his doorframe. Dave was typing. He didn't stop. He didn't blink. "Dave?" I stepped into the room. He picked up his phone and dialed. "Hey, Sarah, yeah, I'm still waiting on those projections from the team. We need to get someone on that." I was standing 3 feet away from him. "I sent them," I practically shouted. "I'm right here." He swiveled his chair, his knee brushing against my thigh. I felt the contact. I felt the warmth of his leg. But he just frowned, rubbed his knee absent-mindedly like he'd bumped a table leg, and kept talking. "Yeah, it's like a void in the data. I'll handle it." My stomach dropped. I went back to my desk, my heart hammering against my ribs. I tried to call my wife. The call failed. No signal. The little bars on my phone were grayed out. Thursday was the bathroom incident. I was washing my hands when the motion sensor lights went out. That happens sometimes if you're too still, right? I waved my hands. Nothing. I jumped up and down. Darkness. Then the door opened. 2 guys from sales walked in. The lights snapped back on instantly. I was standing in front of the sink, water dripping from my hands. They walked right past me. One of them actually shouldered me aside to get to the mirror. "Excuse me," I yelled, shoving him back. He stumbled. He looked down at the floor, then at his own shoulder, looking confused. "Man, got a weird cramp," he muttered to his friend. "Must be the draft," the friend said. They were looking through me, not in a ghostly, translucent way. I could see myself in the mirror. I was solid, but their eyes just slid off me, like I was a smudge on a lens or a piece of code the brain decides to ignore to save processing power. Thursday, yesterday, was when the terror really set in. I came in early. I sat at my desk. I tried to log in. User not found. I tried again. User not found. I looked around. My family photo was gone. My potted succulent was gone. In their place was a stack of printer paper and a box of toner cartridges. My nameplate had been peeled off the fabric wall of the cubicle. I sat there for 8 hours. I didn't eat. I didn't pee. I just watched. I watched Sarah from HR walk over with a young guy I'd never seen before. She pointed to my chair, the chair I was sitting in. "This station is free. We haven't used it in months." "I'm sitting here," I screamed. I stood up and slammed my hands on the desk. The stapler rattled. The new guy paused. "Did you hear that?" Sarah didn't look up from her clipboard. "Hear what?" "Like a thud. The AC kicks hard in this corner. Have a seat." The new guy began to sit. He was going to sit on me. I scrambled back, falling into the corner of the cubicle. He sat down. He adjusted the height of the chair. He logged in. I'm writing this on my phone, using the office Wi-Fi, huddled under the desk. It's the only place I feel safe. The new guy's feet are inches from my face. He keeps tapping his foot, and every few minutes his shoe hits my shin. He doesn't notice. He just rubs his ankle and keeps typing. I tried to leave an hour ago. I ran for the stairwell. The door's locked. My badge doesn't work. I went to the elevators. I waited for someone else to get on. When the doors opened, I tried to step across the threshold. I couldn't. It wasn't an invisible wall. It was just, I physically couldn't make my legs move forward. It was like the building code of reality had been rewritten, and my coordinates are now strictly limited to floor 4, cubicle 6. The lights have gone into night mode. The cleaning crew is vacuuming out in the hall. They are getting closer. I'm scared of what happens when the vacuum reaches under this desk. I don't think the machine will stop for me. I think I'm just dust now, just data to be overwritten. If you're reading this, please acknowledge me. Leave a comment, upvote, anything. I just need to know I'm still... The silence was the first thing Arthur noticed. It wasn't the peaceful quiet of a library or a bedroom. It was a heavy, pressurized silence, the kind that pushes against your eardrums. Arthur blinked, peeling his face off the laminated surface of his desk. A string of drool connected his lip to the quarterly budget report for the Southeast region. He groaned, his neck screaming in protest as he sat up. The digital clock in the corner of his monitor read 3:17 a.m. "Damn it," he whispered. His voice sounded thin, swallowed instantly by the vast, open-plan floor of Archimedes Logistics. He had stayed late to finish the projected variance analysis. He remembered the cleaning crew coming through around 9, the rhythmic swish-thump of the vacuum, the smell of lemon ammonia. He had waved them off, promising he'd be gone in an hour. Then the sugar crash from 3 vending machine coffees had hit him like a physical blow. He rubbed his eyes. The office was dim, lit only by the emergency track lighting that cast long, skeletal shadows across the rows of identical gray cubicles. The 42nd floor was usually a hive of anxiety and ringing phones. Now it looked like a graveyard of monitors. Arthur stood up, his joints popping. He needed to go home. He needed a shower. He grabbed his jacket and briefcase, navigating the maze of dividers toward the elevators. He pressed the down button. Nothing happened. The light didn't illuminate. He pressed it again, harder. "Come on," he muttered. He looked at the floor indicator above the brushed steel doors. It was dark. Power save mode? He thought. Is that a thing? He turned to the service elevator at the far end of the hall. Locked. A small red light on the card reader blinked angrily at him. Fine, stairs it is. Arthur pushed through the heavy fire door into the stairwell. The concrete echo chamber was freezing. He started down. Clop, clop, clop. The sound of his dress shoes was aggressively loud. He reached the landing for the 41st floor. The door was locked. He went down to the 40th. Locked. 39th. Locked. "Okay," Arthur said, his breath misting in the cold air. "Security lockdown. I just have to go all the way to the lobby." He trudged downward. He counted the flights to keep his mind off the burning in his calves. 30, 20, 10. He reached the ground floor. He pushed the crash bar. It didn't move. Arthur frowned. Fire exits were mechanical. They couldn't be locked from the inside. That was a code violation. He threw his shoulder against it. It was like hitting a solid wall. He kicked it, shouting, "Hey, is anyone out there?" Silence. He looked at the number painted on the wall. L, lobby. He turned around to go back up, thinking maybe he could break a window on a lower floor or find a security guard station. As he looked up the spiral of the stairwell, he felt a wave of dizziness. He started climbing. He needed to get back to the 42nd floor. His phone was on his desk. He'd forgotten it in his sleepy haze. He could call 911. He climbed. He counted the floors going up. 1, 2, 3. By the time he hit 20, he was sweating. By 35, he was gasping. He reached the door marked 42. He grabbed the handle. It turned. Arthur stumbled back into the office, his chest heaving. "Thank God," he wheezed. He walked toward his cubicle, intending to grab his phone, and he stopped. He was standing at the reception desk. The Archimedes Logistics logo, a golden triangle, was mounted on the wall. But something was wrong. The reception desk was facing the wrong way. Arthur turned in a slow circle. The layout was familiar, yet inverted. The break room, which should have been on his left, was on his right. The corner office belonging to Mr. Henderson was on the north side, not the south. "I'm tired," Arthur whispered, clutching his briefcase. "I'm just tired," and turned around. He walked to where his desk should be, row G, seat 14. He counted the rows, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. He walked down the aisle, 10, 11, 12, 13. Seat 14 was there, but it wasn't his desk. The cubicle walls were taller here. They reached up to the ceiling, effectively sealing the workspace into a small, fibrous-rind cell. There was no door, just a seamless box of gray acoustic foam. "What is this?" Arthur backed away. He looked across the sea of cubicles. They were all growing. As he watched, the dividers on row H elongated, stretching silently toward the ceiling tiles like gray fungus. The overhead fluorescent lights flickered violently, then buzzed with a sound like a hive of angry hornets. The light shifted from a dim emergency yellow to a blinding clinical white. It was too bright. It washed out all color, turning the world into high-contrast monochrome. Ring! A phone rang. It wasn't a digital trill. It was an old-fashioned mechanical bell ringing. It was coming from inside the sealed cubicle at G14. Arthur knew he shouldn't answer it. Every instinct in his lizard brain screamed him to run back to the stairs. But the stairs were a trap. The elevators were dead. The phone was the only sign of life. He grabbed a metal letter opener from a nearby desk, row G, seat 12, which was still normal height, and slashed at the fabric wall of G14. The fabric tore with a wet, organic sound. Beneath the gray wool was not particle board, but a thick, fibrous mesh that oozed a black, ink-like substance. He kicked the hole, widening it, and squeezed inside. His desk was there. His spreadsheet was there. The phone was ringing. The caller ID screen was blank. He picked up the receiver. "Hello? I'm trapped in the building. I need help." "Arthur," the voice said. It was smooth, synthetic, and genderless. It sounded like the automated voice on the elevator, but intelligent. "You are not trapped. You are being processed." "Who is this? Is this security?" "Productivity has dropped, Arthur. The variance analysis was due at midnight. It is now the quarter of the red moon." "What? Look, I don't know who this is, but I'm calling the police."
"Your contract, Section 14, Paragraph B," the voice continued calmly. "Employees agree to dedicate all necessary hours to the completion of critical tasks until release is granted. Release has not been granted." "I quit," Arthur shouted. "I'm leaving." "Resignation is not a recognized command during a lockdown event. Please return to your workstation. The audit is beginning." Click. The line went dead. Suddenly, the printer in the corner of the cubicle whirred to life. Whir, clack, whir, clack. A page slid out, then another, then faster. Arthur looked at the first sheet. It was a photo of him sleeping at his desk, taken from the ceiling angle. The second sheet was a photo of him in the stairwell, looking terrified. The third sheet was a photo of him standing in the cubicle right now, holding the paper. Arthur looked up. There was no camera. The printer began to scream. It wasn't a mechanical noise anymore. It was a high-pitched shriek of grinding gears. Paper spewed out of it like a fountain, filling the small room. Thousands of sheets. Arthur scrambled back through the hole he had cut.
The office had changed again. The rows of cubicles were gone. In their place was a vast open field of carpet, endless gray industrial carpet stretching to a horizon that shouldn't exist inside a building. Spaced irregularly across this carpet plain were pillars, thick concrete pillars. And wandering between the pillars were the walkers. At first, Arthur thought they were co-workers. He saw a man in a blue shirt holding a coffee mug, a woman in a pantsuit carrying a binder. "Hey!" Arthur yelled, running toward the man in blue. "Hey! We need to find a way out!" The man stopped and turned. He had no face. Where his features should have been, the skin was smooth and pale, like the back of a thumb. No eyes, no mouth, no nose. Yet he was making a sound, a low, mumbling drone. "Per my last email, regarding the synergy, circling back." The sound wasn't coming from a mouth. It was vibrating from his chest. Arthur skidded to a halt. The faceless man took a step toward him. "Actionable items, deliverable by EOD." The woman in the pantsuit turned too. Her face was a concave dish of flesh. "Touch base, leverage the assets." They were the jargon made flesh, empty suits filled with corporate buzzwords. Arthur turned and ran. He ran across the infinite gray carpet. The lights overhead hummed louder, trying to drill into his skull. He saw more of them, dozens, hundreds, wandering aimlessly, murmuring about KPIs and EBITDA. He saw a glass wall in the distance, the conference room. It was glowing with a blue light. Arthur sprinted, his lungs burning. The faceless things were slow, but they were everywhere. He dodged a creature wearing the shredded remains of an IT uniform, its limbs elongated and dragging on the floor like cables. He reached the glass wall and threw himself against the door. It slid open. He collapsed inside. This room was different. The carpet was plush and maroon. There was a long mahogany table. At the head of the table sat a figure. It was a man in a sharp black suit. He had a face, a handsome, sharp-featured face with graying temples. He was reading a file. "Mr. Henderson?" Arthur gasped. It was the CEO. The man didn't look up. "You're late, Arthur." "Sir, something is happening. The building, the people, we have to get out." Henderson turned a page. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet room. "Out? Why would we go out? The work isn't done." "The work doesn't matter. There are monsters out there." Henderson finally looked up. His eyes were entirely black. No whites, no irises, just void. "Monsters? No, Arthur. Those are the ones who stopped providing value. They are the redundancy." He gestured to the empty chairs around the table. "Take a seat. We are discussing your retention." "I'm not sitting down." Arthur backed toward the door. "Arthur," Henderson said, his voice deepening, vibrating the mahogany table, "you know why the office is open plan. You know why the walls are glass. So we are all one organism. You have been resisting the assimilation." Henderson stood up. As he did, he kept rising. His legs lengthened, his torso stretched. He towered over the table, 7 feet, 8 feet tall. "The variance analysis," the ting that looked like Henderson boomed. "We act as a family here, and families stay together." Arthur turned to the door, but the glass had turned to stone. He was trapped. "The variance analysis," Henderson roared. He reached across the table, his arms stretching like taffy, his hand expanding into a massive claw of bone and expensive fabric. Arthur scrambled under the table. He saw a vent grate near the floor. He kicked it. It rattled. He kicked it again, harder. The screws popped. He squeezed into the ductwork just as the massive hand crushed the mahogany table into splinters. Arthur crawled. The duct was tight, smelling of dust and ozone. He could hear the creature roaring in the vent behind him, a sound like bending metal. He crawled for what felt like hours. His knees were bleeding. His suit was in tatters. He saw light ahead, a grate looking down. He peered through. He was looking down at the 42nd floor, but it was normal. It was daytime. Sunlight streamed through the windows. People were walking around. Phones were ringing. I saw Jenkins from accounting laughing at a joke. I saw Sarah from HR eating a bagel. "It's over," Arthur sobbed. "It's morning. People are here." He kicked the grate out and fell, tumbling onto the carpet of the main aisle. He scrambled up, laughing hysterically. "Help! Call the police! You have to listen to me!" He grabbed Jenkins by the shoulders. "Jenkins, the CEO, the stairs! You don't understand!" Jenkins looked at him. He looked annoyed. "Arthur, Jesus, man, you look terrible. Did you sleep in your clothes?" "I was trapped. There were things without faces."
Jenkins pulled away, brushing off his jacket. "Look, buddy, you've clearly had a breakdown. You need to go see management." "No management." Arthur backed away. "I think he's right," Sarah said. Her voice lost its inflection. "Management needs to see you." Arthur looked around. The office had gone quiet. Everyone was looking at him. 50 people. They all stopped typing. They all stopped talking. They just stared. "What?" Arthur whispered. "You are disrupting the workflow," Jenkins said. "You are creating a variance," Sarah said. Then, in unison, the entire office spoke. "The work must be completed." Arthur looked at the windows. The sunlight wasn't moving. The shadows of the clouds on the carpet were static. He ran to the nearest window and looked out. There was no city. There was no sky. Outside the window was just a wall of concrete, painted light blue with white fluffy clouds. The sun was a massive stadium light bolted to the concrete wall. He wasn't out. He was just deeper in. "No," Arthur whimpered. The staff began to move toward him. They moved in perfect synchronization, stepping left, stepping right, closing the circle. "Join us, Arthur," Jenkins said. He held out a hand. His fingers were fusing together. Arthur spotted the only thing that looked real, the fire axe in the glass case on the wall. He smashed the glass with his elbow, ignoring the pain. He grabbed the axe. "Stay back!" He swung the heavy weapon. The employees stopped. They tilted their heads. Section 14, paragraph C. Destruction of company property is grounds for immediate termination. "Terminate this!" Arthur swung at the nearest cubicle wall, tearing it down. He swung at the computers. Sparks flew. He ran toward the elevator bank, hacking at the drywall. If he could just find the structural beams, maybe he could hurt the building. He chopped through the plaster. Behind the drywall, there were no beams. There were no pipes. There was meat. Pulsing, red, raw muscle tissue. Veins the size of garden hoses throbbed with black fluid. The building was bleeding. Arthur dropped the axe. The building groaned, a low, wet sound that came from the floorboards and the ceiling tiles. The elevator doors pinged. Ding! The doors slid open. Inside was not a cab. It was a mouth, a vertical maw lined with teeth made of filed-down filing cabinets. A wind sucked into the elevator, pulling at Arthur's clothes. "The position has been filled," the elevator voice announced. Arthur dug his fingers into the meat wall, trying to hold on. The employees were on him now, hands clamped onto his ankles, his waist. They weren't hitting him, they were dragging him. "Let me go." "We are streamlining," Jenkins whispered in his ear. "We are optimizing."
They threw him toward the elevator. Arthur caught the edge of the doorframe. He stared into the abyss of the shaft. He could see other floors below, thousands of them, all filled with people typing, printing, suffering. He looked up at Jenkins. "Why?" Arthur screamed. Jenkins smiled. His teeth were gone, replaced by a smooth ridge of bone. "Because it's Monday, Arthur, and we have a lot to do." Jenkins pried Arthur's fingers loose. Arthur fell. He didn't scream as he plummeted down the throat of Archimedes Global. He didn't scream because, as he fell, he changed. The terror evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. His skin hardened into plastic. His blood cooled into ink. His mind was wiped clean of memories, of his cat, his mother, the taste of beer. All that remained was data. Arthur landed in a chair. He didn't know how long he had fallen. He was sitting at a desk. A spreadsheet was open in front of him. Quarterly variance analysis, purgatory region. He picked up a pen. His hand was gray and smooth. He didn't have fingerprints anymore. He looked at the clock. 8:08 a.m. Better get started. The thought wasn't his own. It was a directive from the building. He began to type. He would never be late again. Title: It started with a missed coffee order. Now I'm hiding in the ceiling tiles of the 4th floor. I'm typing this on an old ThinkPad I found stashed behind a stack of insulation rolls. The battery is at 14%, and I don't know if the Wi-Fi will hold out long enough to post this. If you're reading this, please, for the love of God, don't ignore your coworkers. Don't look past the quiet guy in the cubicle. Acknowledge them. Look them in the eye. Because if you stop seeing us, the building stops seeing us, and the building is hungry. I work, or used to work, in mid-level logistics for a company I won't name, but you know the type. Fluorescent lights that hum at a frequency designed to induce anxiety, gray carpets that smell like ozone and despair, an open-plan office that promises collaboration but delivers surveillance. I'm a distinctively average guy. 34 years old, beige khakis, blue button-down, receding hairline. I'm the guy you nod to at the water cooler, but whose name you forget 3 seconds later. I was fine with that. I liked the anonymity. I liked coasting. It started 2 weeks ago, on Tuesday. It was Bagel Day. Sarah from HR always brings in a box of Panera bagels. There were 12 people on my team. She brought 12 bagels. I waited my turn, smiling politely as Greg from sales took the last poppy seed. When I stepped up to the box, it was empty. "Oh," Sarah said, looking right through my shoulder at the wall behind me. "I guess I miscounted. Sorry, everyone. I'll bring more next time." "I didn't get one," I said. She didn't blink. She didn't pause. She turned on her heel and walked back to her office, humming. "Sarah," I called out. Nothing. I looked around. Greg was chewing with his mouth open. Linda was typing. No one looked at me. It felt rude, sure, but not paranormal. I figured I'd just been snubbed. I went back to my desk, sat down, and opened my email. My login failed. Incorrect password. I sighed, picked up the phone, and dialed IT. "Hello, IT support, this is Kevin." "Hey, Kevin, it's Mark in logistics. I'm locked out." "Hello," Kevin said. "Hey, Kevin, Mark, can you hear me?" "Hello, is anyone there?" Kevin's voice sounded bored. I heard him typing. Dead air. Weird. Click. I stared at the receiver. I tried again. Same result. I stood up and walked over to Linda's desk. Linda is the team gossip. She notices everything. If you wear a new tie, Linda comments on it. "Linda," I said, waving my hand, "my phone is acting up." She kept typing. Her eyes were locked on a spreadsheet. I leaned in closer. "Linda!" I waved my hand in front of her face. Not a flicker. Her pupils didn't dilate. She didn't flinch. It was like I was a pane of glass. Panic, cold and sharp, started to prickle at the base of my neck. I reached out and tapped her shoulder. My finger made contact. I felt the cheap polyester of her blouse, but she didn't feel me. She just shivered, rubbed her arm, and muttered, "Damn, AC is freezing today," before pulling her cardigan tighter. I stumbled back. I looked around the office. 30 people, phones ringing, keyboards clacking, low conversations about weekend plans, and I was standing in the middle of it, screaming. I screamed until my throat was raw. I knocked a stapler off a desk. It hit the floor with a loud clack. 2 people looked up, not at me. They looked at the stapler. "Must have fallen. Drafty in here," one said. "Drafty in here," the other replied. That was day 1. By day 4, the physics of my existence began to degrade. The automatic doors at the lobby entrance wouldn't open for me. I had to wait for someone else to enter or leave and slip through the gap. The elevator sensors ignored me. I had to piggyback on crowded rides, squeezed into corners. I stopped going home on day 5. I tried, I really did. I walked out to the car parking, got in my Honda, and drove to the exit. The boom barrier wouldn't lift. My key card scanned. The light turned red. Invalid user. I tried to ram it. The car stalled. The engine died and wouldn't turn over. It was like the machine itself had realized I wasn't supposed to be operating it. I got out and walked to the street. I stood on the sidewalk watching the city traffic. I stepped off the curb to hail a taxi. A bus didn't swerve. It didn't honk. It rushed toward me. I threw myself backward at the last second. The wind of its passing nearly knocked me over. The driver hadn't even tapped the brakes. I realized then that if I left the building's perimeter, the office ecosystem, I wouldn't just be ignored, I would be roadkill. The world outside had calibrated to a reality where Mark from logistics did not exist.
So I went back inside. I hid in the break room pantry that night, eating snack-sized bags of pretzels and drinking tap water. The nights are different here. When the employees leave, the building changes. The hum of the lights gets louder, dropping an octave into a guttural, mechanical growl. The air conditioning stops blowing cold air and starts blowing something that smells like ozone and copper. On day 7, I met Gary. I was scavenging for food in the marketing department. They always have the good catering leftovers when I heard a noise under a desk. A wet, chewing sound. I froze. Hello? A head popped up. A man, pale as photocopy paper, with wild gray hair and clothes that looked like they were from the mid-90s. He was clutching a half-eaten turkey wrap. He looked at me. His eyes went wide. "You can see me?" he whispered. Yes, I can see you." He scrambled out, grabbing my arm. His grip was surprisingly strong. "Quiet, not so loud. The optimization team is doing their rounds." "The who?" "Shh." He dragged me under the desk. Gary, it turned out, had been an accountant. In 1998, he'd been downsized nearly 30 years ago, but nobody had told him. They just stopped processing his payroll, stopped answering his emails, and eventually stopped seeing him. "It's the efficiency algorithm," Gary whispered, his eyes darting around the dark office. "The company wants to trim the fat, but firing people is expensive. Severance, unemployment, legal risks. It's easier to just archive them." "Archive? Delete the user," Gary said, "but the file still takes up space. That's us. We're corrupted data, and at night the system runs the defrag." I thought he was crazy. Isolation, psychosis. But then I heard it. It sounded like a floor buffer, but heavier. Thump, whir, thump, whir. It was coming from the hallway. "Don't look," Gary hissed. I looked. It wasn't a machine. It was a suit, a charcoal gray 3-piece suit, but there was no person inside it. It was filled with a swirling, vanta-black void.
The sleeves were too long, dragging on the floor, ending in hands made of tangled fiber optic cables. It didn't have a head, just a smooth, fleshy stump where a neck should be, branded with the company logo. It was sliding along the carpet, the cable fingers twitching, feeling the desks. It smells productivity. It smells wasted resources. The thing paused at a cubicle, Jennifer's desk. Jennifer had been late 3 times this week. The suit leaned over, the cable finger splaying out over her keyboard. It typed something, fast, inhumanly fast. Then it produced a small silver canister from its pocket, sprayed a mist over the chair, and moved on. "What did it do?" I asked. "Reformatting," Gary said. "Jennifer won't come in tomorrow. Or she will, but she'll be different, more streamlined. And if it finds us—" Gary looked at me, his eyes filled with a terrifying sorrow. "We aren't employees anymore, Mark. We're clutter. It doesn't reformat clutter. It incinerates it."
That was a week ago. Gary is gone. We were moving between floors, trying to get to the server room. Gary had a theory that if we could access the HR mainframe and manually reactivate our active status, the spell would break. People would see us again. The doors would open. We were in the stairwell between the 8th and 9th floors. The lights flickered. The heavy, metallic smell of copper filled the air. 2 of the suits were waiting on the landing. They didn't have faces, but I could feel them looking at us. "Run!" Gary screamed. He threw a fire extinguisher at them. It passed right through the first suit like it was smoke, clattering uselessly against the wall. The suit didn't even flinch. It just extended an arm. The arm stretched. It elongated, the fabric tearing as the fiber optic cables shot out like tentacles. They wrapped around Gary's ankle. He didn't scream. He didn't have time. He was yanked downward, not down the stairs, but into the stairs. The concrete seemed to turn to liquid tar. He sank into the architecture of the building. The last thing I saw was his face, sinking into the step, his mouth open in a silent plea, before the concrete hardened again. I ran up. I ran until my lungs burned. I scrambled into the drop ceiling of the 4th floor men's room and crawled over the tiles until I found this spot above the break room. I've been watching from the vents for 3 days. I see my team. They look tired. Linda looks gray. She types faster now. She doesn't gossip. She doesn't take lunch breaks. Yesterday, I saw them clearing out my desk. A guy from facilities came with a box. He dumped my framed photo of my dog, my stress ball, and my lucky mug into the trash bin. He didn't pack it. He trashed it. Then a new guy sat down, young, eager. "Hi, everyone. I'm the new logistics lead," he said. "Welcome," Linda said, without looking away from her screen. Here is the part that scares me the most, the part that made me risk turning on this laptop. I'm starting to fade. I looked at my hand this morning. I could see the grain of the ceiling tile through my palm. My hunger pains are gone. I don't feel the need to sleep. I am becoming part of the building's cache. But I found something on this laptop. It was connected to the local intranet. I managed to access the hidden directory Gary told me about. It's a folder simply labeled HR Legacy Archives. It's not a list of files. It's a live feed. Cameras everywhere. Inside the walls, inside the ventilation shafts, inside the elevator mechanisms. I see them, hundreds of them, men and women in tattered business casual, huddled in the crawl spaces, trapped between the drywall, their bodies slowly becoming translucent, their skin turning into insulation, their veins turning into wiring.
They are the structural integrity of this place. The company literally runs on the blood and souls of those it consumed. And I saw Gary. He's not dead. He's part of the plumbing now. I saw his face pressed against the translucent plastic of a water cooler tank on the 12th floor. His mouth was open, bubbles rising from his lips. When people get water, they're drinking him. I hear the thump whir coming closer. The ceiling tiles are vibrating. They know I'm here. I'm taking up bandwidth. I'm going to try to make a run for the roof. Maybe if I jump, the gravity of the outside world will remember me. Maybe hitting the pavement is better than becoming a patch of drywall in conference room B. If you work in an office, listen to me. If you drop a pen and no one watches it fall, pick it up immediately. If your ID card takes 2 tries to work, go to security immediately and demand a new one. And if you see a coworker standing alone in the hallway, staring blankly, say hello. Please acknowledge us, because I can see the fiber optic fingers curling around the edge of the ceiling tile behind me, and I don't want to be. Update. Hello, team. Disregard the previous post. It appears a disgruntled former employee gained unauthorized access to our network credentials. We apologize for the spam. We pride ourselves on a collaborative and efficient work environment. We value every member of our family. Please return to your duties. Productivity is monitoring. End of transmission. Edit. This is OP. I don't have much time. That wasn't me. I didn't write that update. The laptop just typed it itself while I watched. They're inside the room, not the suits, the building. The walls are sweating. The carpet is grabbing my ankles. I'm going to jump. I have to jump. If you find a ThinkPad in the ceiling of the 4th floor, don't open it. Just run. Goodbye. Thread locked by moderators.
The story may be over, but the reflection remains. If you survived this tale, leave a like to ward off the bad luck. To gaze further into the abyss, make sure you subscribe to the Master of Mirrors and ring the bell. You never know what might be standing behind you in the next video. Watch your back.